Okay, so the last critter class I want to take a look at is um, this critter class that we can use to make a little critter caretaker game. So we're going to have a critter as a virtual pet. And we're going to be able to, well, let me run this and show you what we can do with it. This is a text-based game, and we can listen to your critter, feed your critter, or play with your critter. Okay, so if we feed our critter, he burps. If we listen to our critter, he tells us his mood. Okay, he says, I'm a critter and I feel happy. So the idea is to try to keep him in a good mood. He can get mad if basically at every turn you take, time passes. So every time either you listen to your critter, feed it, or play with it, time passes. So he loses a he can get more hungry or bored with each step. Okay, so if all you're doing is listening each time, for example, he might start out happy, and then he feels okay. And after a while, you're not feeding him, you're just checking his mood. Feels okay, so now he's starting to feel frustrated, and now he feels mad. Okay, so if you spend a lot of time playing with him, you might be able to, let's see if we can pump his mood back up again some more. Well, he's still kind of mad, so let's see. Let's feed him a lot, too. Feed and play. How about now? Ah, now he feels okay. All right. So that's the basic game plan. Then it's 0 to quit. So how do we want to plan out something like this? Well, we want to have separate hunger and boredom levels, right? So that we can, when we feed him, his hunger goes up, and when he gets bored, his boredom goes up, right? Or when we don't feed him, his hunger goes up. When we don't play with him, he gets more bored, right? And vice versa. Okay, and then we want to get a read on his mood. We need to be able to get a read on his mood. Notice that in our choices, we had an option of talking, which would express his mood, but we can have the way we're building it, actually, and the way that the designer thought about it was, getting the mood is kind of a separate thing that the talk function can use. So the public functions we're using, let me see if I can bring up a picture of this. This is the basic design of the class, of the critter class, okay? So we have these member variables, hunger and boredom, these separate member variables. And these minus signs mean that this is private information, not public, okay? And typically your data, all your variables in a class, you want to keep private as a rule. We have talk, eat, and play as our public members, and pastime as private. And like I said, we end up having a get mood, guy in here also. And when you're making these diagrams, and you can do this with pencil and paper, and in later lessons I'll show you how those tools you can use. You're not necessarily going to have all the methods written up the first time your first pass through these, but anyway, so this is one way to document your class, to have your just basically to sketch out these are the fields, the member variables that I want, and these are the methods, the member functions that I want my class to have. Okay, and another way of documenting these things is with pseudocode. Let me scooch this aside for a minute. Is with pseudocode. So if we're thinking in terms of what do we want the general flow of activity to be like, it's going to be we're going to create a critter. Okay, so that's creating our class with all those member variables and member functions that we talked about, and then we're going to loop through the actual game portion. So this game portion is going to be on our main function, right? So it's going to be, and again, the pseudocode is just a way of writing stuff out so that you're not worried about is this going to compile correctly or not. You're just trying to get the basic logic down, and then you can, before you start getting into the details of trying to get the code syntactically correct and make sure it compiles and does exactly what you want it to. But the basic flow is we're going to create a critter. While the player doesn't want to quit the game, we'll present a menu of choices. So that's what we did. We had the choices. And then the player is going to pick a choice. So if the player wants to listen to the critter, we'll make the critter talk. If the player wants to feed the critter, we'll make the critter eat. If the player wants to play with the critter, we'll make the critter play. Okay? So that's the basic flow of it. What do I do? Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, so that's the basic flow. Okay, so now let's take a look at the code itself. So again, there are a lot of different tools to use for documenting, but these were a couple of, making that basic diagram that we saw and then putting in the pseudocode are a couple of things you can do to kind of get your head in the right mode to build your class, and then we can actually go ahead and build the class. And so we're going to have a critter class, and we can pretty much know we're going to need IO stream, right, for the writing out the prompts and getting the information, and using namespace std standard, right? And then for our class, well, our public methods, we're going to have this constructor, right? And then which is going to have a hunger and a boredom, and we can just initialize both to 0 at the beginning of the game. And then our talk, eat, and play, okay? And it makes sense that that eat is going to take up a food parameter to tell it how much to change the hunger variable by, right? And play is in charge of the boredom variable. We're going to need a variable to tell us how much to change the boredom variable, right? So okay, so then for in private we have our two fields, and then these get mood and pastime pieces, we're not going to need those because they're not part of the, they're not going to be run out of our main. They're not part of our this part of our pseudocode doesn't involve directly calling get mood or pastime. Okay, so we can make those private. Okay, so the next part, this constructor, and this is the .cpp file that you can download. the constructor sets up, initializes M hunger and boredom. And again, if we just created a critter and didn't, if we just, set up the constructor with no parameters, we know those are going to default to zeros because in our function prototypes up here, we have zeros, right? Let's see. So then, okay, yeah. So then our next function is getMood, which returns the sum of hunger and boredom. Then we have pastime, which adds an increment to our hunger and our boredom. So that's, every time the user makes a selection, we're going to call this pastime, this private pastime function, to make sure our hunger and our boredom goes up, because over time you're going to, you're getting hungry and bored. Then there's the talk function. That's when we want to listen to our critter. Our critter will tell us how it feels. Okay, so we use this getMood, this private getMood function to get the critter's mood, and then we check the mood. And depending on the mood level, the value of the mood, we give different responses, and then we do another pastime. If we eat, we burp, and we decrement our hunger amount, right? Because we're not as hungry, and then we pastime again. Okay. So notice, like I said, we call pastime in the eat, talk, and whoops, I didn't show the play function yet, and in the play function. Okay. So the eat function decrements the hunger amount, and the play function decrements the boredom amount. Okay. And let's see. Oh, and the lowest we're allowing our boredom to go is to 0. And the same thing with hunger. The lowest hunger can go is 0. And we call pastime each time. And then the main, here is where we're running our, this main lot, the major portion of our pseudocode, this logic here, where we're displaying the menu. So we start out with our critter. We've created a critter with the default constructor values, which are hunger 0 and boredom 0, right? And then, okay, so we do that. Then we set choice equal to 1 to start the critter off talking, because 1 is that choice. And then while the choice is not equal to 0, we're going to display the prompt, get a choice from the player, and load that into choice. And then we'll, depending on the player's choice, we'll call our different functions in there. Okay, so that is the CritterCaretaker game. Now, there is an assignment. The assignment that goes with this, let me see if I have it here. The assignment that goes with this is okay, so we have 2 exercises. Improve the CritterCaretaker program so that you can enter an unlisted menu choice that reveals the exact values of the critter's hunger and boredom levels. I think that one's pretty straightforward. And then change so you would have a another menu choice up here. So you would have 0, 1, 2, 3, and then you would add a 4th one, a choice 4, that prints out like to basically to show the see your critter's boredom and hunger values, or however you want to say it. See how hungry or and bored your critter is, and that would print out the exact boredom and hunger values. And then it says change the critter caretaker program so that the critter is more expressive about its needs by hinting at how hungry and bored it is. So instead of just ranging from happy to angry, you could say, I'm not bored, but I'm hungry, or I'm getting really hungry and I'm a little bored, or I'm not bored at all, but and I'm pretty full, or something like that. Okay, so you decide how, what kind of, how you want to express the hunger or boredom that the critter's feeling. All right, so good luck with that, and let me know if you have any questions.